Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you all for joining us tonight. It's going to be a good one. And Momus has just given me some advice, right? And he said, don't eat popcorn before you do a live stream, because I was stuffing a handful of butter-kissed popcorn into my face and then started choking with a minute to go and had to do all sorts of swilling water around my mouth to get rid of all the flakes that were going to stop me breathing while I was talking. So if I suddenly go a little bit blue and pass out, it's just there's a little bit of popcorn still floating about somewhere. That I bet you've never listened to a live stream start with someone talking about popcorn. Has that ever happened, Momus, when you've been going on a live stream? Has anyone ever said that? No, I didn't think so. Because we're consummate professionals here, you see, and we're always trying to shake things up and make things a little bit different.
Momus, we're always giving helpful tips to people.
Always giving helpful tips to people. So the tip for the day is, when you're doing a live stream, don't stick a handful of popcorn into your mouth. And I haven't even got my lights on or anything, so it's just good job there's plenty of light outside. But anyway. Evening, everybody. Momus, you're very welcome. The subject tonight is how to stop the UK slipping into conflict and how do we unite the kingdom. I want to start with, there's a lot of talk. See, it's hit the popcorn, still hitting me. There's a lot. There's a lot. Pop pickers, not that sort of pop, unfortunately. Sid. Oh my God, Momus, you will not know who Sid Snot is, or do you know who Sid Snot is?
No,
Sid Snot, right? There was a comedian called Kenny Everett in the 1980s, 70s and 80s. I thought he was absolutely hilarious. He wasn't everybody's cup of tea. His sidekick was also fantastic. Cleo Rokas, I think her name was something. Anyways, Sid Snot is obviously a big fan of Kenny Everett. So evening pop, because wasn't that sort of pop, Sid? It was popcorn. So yes, let's get serious. Let's get really serious here. How to stop the UK slipping into conflict. A lot of talk about uprising, civil war. I think a lot of it's hot air, to be honest with you, to a certain extent. I don't think a full-on civil war is anywhere near happening, and I'll give you my reasons why if anybody wants them. But there could certainly be civil disturbances. What are your thoughts on all the stuff that we've been hearing from people like David Betts and actually even and this is where you do take it seriously. The guy that's out in Israel all the time, Colonel Richard Kemp, is saying exactly the same thing. I have a friend, is a lecturer in Sandhurst, an academic. He's very, very connected with the I suppose the military and intelligence side of things. And he's he doesn't give too much away because those guys never do, but he kind of intimates that he's quite concerned about that as well. What do you think? And if you do think it's going to happen, where do you think it's going to come from?
Okay, so I think so. One of the things is whenever anyone talks about these scenarios or scenarios similar to it, doesn't have to be even Britain as well. People take the worst case scenario and lead with it, right? The most exaggerated worst case scenario. And David Betts is completely not talking about that. He's actually laying out that this can happen, and if this happened, these are the worst case scenario that it might be, right? Obviously a lot of people have said this as well. It won't be like a civil war, in my opinion. It won't be like a civil war as in American Civil War, or even in the Civil War that England had before, right? So but there would be a conflict, right?
Yeah.
That conflict is, in my view, do we really want to stop it, right? So now this is going to be a longer answer than you might have expected, right? So here's
Momus, when I ask you a question, I always leave at least 10 minutes for the answer. Yeah. I know you well enough now, brother.
So we are saying how do we stop UK slipping into the conflict, right? And my sort of proposal is, why do we want to stop it? So a lot of people are saying that they don't want violence, that they would rather have this conflict or whatever it might be in a peaceful way. A lot of people are saying that, right? But I think so that comes with a compromise, and I've seen certain people already making that compromise, right? So now when you're trying to avoid violence, you have to slip into the centrist area of politics, right? Because then you're trying to bring everyone together, which is good, right? But that comes up with compromises. In our case, and usually that's my natural home of compromise, right? Compromise centrist positions, try to avoid violence because it comes with a lot of like unintended consequences, which people in the heat of things they might not understand the repercussions are later on. We have to a lot to learn from the French Revolution as well, right? But in this case, I think so the situation is very unique, because the consequences what we will have to make to avoid a violent conflict or any serious conflict is a compromise with Islam, right? And a lot of people are already making this is why you see Reform Party, as soon as Faraj took over, changed their mentality on Islam. They're including people like Zia Yusuf, who's bringing in Pakistani and other investors into the Reform Party. That's going to, like, the intention might be good, right? The intention might be, oh, there are moderate Muslims out there, if we bring them together we'll just kick out the extremists and stuff. This is where people are making mistakes, and a lot of people are saying as well, well, we don't want to kick all of Muslims out and stuff like that. It's like, I don't want to kick all of Muslims out as well, but why can't you distinct, why don't you have the moral clarity to say Islam is completely unacceptable while not raising the picket fences and stuff like that against the Muslims, right? Individual Muslims. We have to encourage them to leave Islam while not accepting Islam. Right? You can have the moral conviction, but we know we can come up to come on to this later on, why these people can't say that, because they don't have the moral convictions, right, of themselves. They don't have faith based or any moral convictions. So this is a compromise that is right now that I see happening, that has been happening for a very long time. So this conflict is not a conflict of 2 3 years. This conflict has been building up for the past 40 years, right? And everyone, all our elites knew this, right, including our monarch. That is why they calculated that from the very beginning, that they want to avoid violent conflict, which is why the appeasement of Islam started happening way back then. And we are seeing a continuation of that. So, my proposal is, why do we need to stop the conflict? A lot of my efforts have been to stop the violent conflict. I've written about it. It's like, okay, you guys don't understand what happens in violent conflicts and stuff. Still, I would like to avoid violent conflict, right? But I don't want to avoid conflict at all, right? Like, no conflict. It has to be, because I do not want compromise with Islam. You leave any sense of it over here, even the smallest bit of it, it will grow back, right? People think like these moderate Pakistanis or whatever, in businesses, oh, they don't believe in Islam, they don't have those intentions, whatever. It doesn't matter, their kids will have it, their kids will have it, as long as they keep on living in parallel communities and keeping their distance with British native culture, and even people as well, because they keep separate from everyone, right? So they'll keep bidding for their time, right? And once the demographics increases, then you're screwed. So it's sort of like, are we avoiding um violent conflict for temporary reasons, right? In the temporary, but our kids or their kids will have to deal with it. I rather have it now, when I'm able, right? When I'm somewhat young and able, rather than when I'm old and feeble and I can't do anything about it, and I'm like incapable of, like, helping people out, right? So this is sort of like a long-winded answer. Is there will be a conflict. The conflict is of our choosing now. It depends how much moral conviction people have, how much people have had enough, what kind of leaders do we have, and can we get rid of this appeasement attitude, this weak attitude, this bu- without a backbone sort of attitude, like spineless, attitude. Can we leave that aside and say, no, okay, we need to have moral convictions of, like, yes, we will not let it turn into a race war, but we will definitely not compromise on having Islam run rampant in this country and divide us further. And on top of that, also, we have to come to this conclusion that no, communism needs to go. It's enough. We can't let the whole of the Labour Party. If you actually, I'm sorry, I'm going on even for longer than I thought I would. But Labour Party, all of the people in the Labour Party, right? None of them, none of them have apologized for being a rampant communist in the younger days,
Yeah, yeah,
which means they're still communists, right?
I
They are
agree.
communist, and they will bring
Absolutely.
communism through their socialism. Socialism is always the mechanism to bring communism in, right? And this is what they're doing right now. So we have to get rid of. We have to be uncompromising of these two things. Like, enough is enough. We have to get rid of it. If there's a conflict, let there be a conflict. People need to find the courage now. It's enough.
That's great. That's a very well thought out answer, and I do appreciate that. Just want to answer this one, and I'm going to give my answer to the question to my rhetorical question.
Yeah.
Momus, my brother, did Muhammad marry an 8-year-old girl? No, he didn't marry an 8-year-old girl. He married a 6-year-old girl. And let me just get this right. He consummated the marriage when she was what age, Momus?
9.
9 years old.
So we know, right?
So we're told, according
Yeah.
to the Sahih
Yeah.
hadiths, in other words,
Yeah.
the so-called authentic hadiths.
He used
That's
to bring his wife toys to play with. Like, it's perverse. And he was in his 50s.
And I
And
don't know
he
how
had
he did this.
he had other 3 wives as well, and other sex slaves.
He also used to wear his wife's clothes, and I think he tried to wear Aisha's clothes as well. So there's a lot of in the hadiths, man.
This is why LGBT people love him. Like, he's a proper rainbow prophet.
He was a proper rainbow prophet. He really was, actually. I mean, that's a lot of people don't realize. A lot of people don't know that he was a rainbow prophet. There's all sorts of stuff about Mo that you really don't want. Not Momus, Muhammad, that you really like. If you start looking into it, you'll go, Muhammad, Jesus. No comparison.
Yeah.
Anyway, my take on it, again, very much echoing what you say to it, but there's a slight area of disagreement. I mean, I've been saying this. Well, I've known about this since 1984. I knew we had a massive problem in 1984 from when I was at school. Talking to kids in my school, and their uncles were out fighting in Afghanistan, their cousins were out fighting in Afghanistan, and then when they got big enough, they stuck it on as a tribe against our tribe, not race. People try and say this is racism. It's not race. It's actually tribalism. So you have a tribe of young virile Pakistani men. You have a tribe of young virile white West Indian and Sikh men. Something's going to happen. That's that. And it did certainly when I was at school. We ended up with riots in the school. We had the special patrol group patrolling the school, and we had the BBC coming down with their big old-fashioned outside broadcast trucks and setting up outside school and trying to interview the kids, because apparently they could interview young kids then. It wasn't a problem. Well, it was the BBC. They did a lot of other things with kids as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
But yeah, so putting all that aside, so you go to 89 and you've got I think it was Iqbal Sakani. I think he was one of the founders of the Muslim Council of Britain. I think. If I'm wrong on that, I apologize. But I remember him speaking up very, very aggressively at the time about Salman Rushdie, the Satanic Verses, the Shia crazy guy that looked like the devil, Khomeini, not this Khomeini, the other Khomeini, who was even more evil than this one, basically putting a fatwa out on Salman Rushdie, and they got him. Yeah. I mean, this is the thing that people don't realize. They do not stop. They do not stop. Yeah. The jihadists do not stop. So I've known about the problem. I first spoke about the problem publicly in 1998, in a little church on the Shankill Road. And people just looked at me like I had two heads, because they went, sure, the Pope's the Antichrist. It's not Islam.
Yeah.
So, but that was Belfast in the 1990s, right? But the actual point about civil conflict, and there's a few things I want to say. First of all, if you look at Northern Ireland is still recovering from the conflict, without a shadow of a doubt. There's still the residue there. There's still a lot of people grieving, and if you go into a civil war situation, and this is why I'm very, very wary of all this. If you go into a civil war situation, and it spreads right the way throughout the UK, and it's not going to be two standing armies. It's not going to be like, if you look at what people say, oh, it's going to be the Balkanization. What people don't realize about the Balkans is Croatia, before the civil war happened in in Yugoslavia, in the former Yugoslavia. Croatia had a massive standing army.
Mm.
Serbia had a massive standing army. The Bosnians had an army, and then they had a whole lot of jihadis going in to boost their numbers. I think Macedonia, Slovenia, they all took sides, but all of those groups were already armed. They were,
Yeah.
when they started that war, they were armed to the teeth. So those
And they
armies,
weren't that different from each other as well.
well, they were, because obviously the Serbs were Orthodox, the Croats were Catholic, the
No,
Bosniaks were
like
Muslim.
within one, it wasn't
Oh
as
yes,
like,
yes,
ethnically.
they'd lived together
Yeah,
fairly well,
yeah.
and I think what people don't realize as well, there was a lot of radicalization in the Balkans
Hmm.
after the civil war started. A lot of
Hmm.
jihadists went in there, and a lot of jihadists actually from the UK went to the Balkans to fight
Hmm.
on the side of their Muslim brothers in Bosnia. And so our civil war wouldn't be like that, because
No,
we don't have any firearms.
no.
Nobody's
Well,
got.
the jihadis do have them.
Of course they
Yeah,
do. Because, well, this is the thing, and this is why I'm very, I'm not saying, you don't start a fight that you don't think you can win.
yeah.
You know.
I'm not welcoming it.
Oh no, no,
You know,
no. I know.
um,
No, no.
I'm
I
just
just
saying I don't think so. We can avoid it. Like,
no.
because the
Yeah,
problem is if we avoid it, then they have they have the ammunition, and if they're already scaring our government, and if
yeah,
we don't show our government like, no, we don't accept it. If
yeah.
you back us, then we'll fight for you,
No,
right?
no. I'm going to
So
come. I'm going to come to that. No,
yeah.
I know you're not. I know you're not. You're not
Mm,
advocating. I know you're not advocating for civil war. No right
mm,
thinking person would. Um, but so it's not going to be like it was in the Balkans. It's also not going to be like it was in Northern Ireland. I'll tell you why.
mm,
In Northern Ireland, there was already in the 60s, right the way through from the 1920s, there was a conflict in the 1920s in Northern Ireland. Obviously, it all fizzled out. Bubbled up again a bit in the 1950s, fizzled out. Started again on steroids in the 1960s, and turned into the Troubles. But what you had was a muscle memory of
mm,
disorder, of terrorism, of
mm,
insurgency, because the Irish Civil War was literally 50 years before the Troubles broke out. So it was literally within living memory. Then you had the Second World War in between, when a lot of men had fought in the Second World War, and then after the Second World War, you had the Korean War. So a lot of men from Northern Ireland were actually militarized anyway. The police was always armed, and you always had the IRA. So there was already paramilitary groups in Northern Ireland, and obviously there was loyalist groups as well that formed into the UVF and the UDA. So and you had the Orange Order, and you had some of the not that the Orange Order were involved in the conflict, but you had these sort of semi-secret societies and community groups that were already in place in Northern Ireland. Now, this is the thing: the United Kingdom doesn't have that. When I say the United Kingdom, sorry, Great Britain doesn't have that. A little bit of that in Scotland, but again, it's kind of more Northern Ireland related than anything else. So I've just lost Mo. I hope he hasn't. Hope he's going to come back. Anyway, I'll keep waffling on with what I was saying. Okay, I'm not sure what's happened there. If he wants to come back in, he can come back in. Just let me know, Mo. Give me a shout if you are about there somewhere. But anyway, what I was saying was the situation in Northern Ireland was completely different to what you've got in England. So unfortunately, English people aren't prepared for any conflict. Not really prepared. They're prepared for a punch up. They might even be prepared for running around with baseball bats or whatever. But they're not prepared for a full on insurgency. Now, I think the jihadists absolutely are prepared for that. They are in a situation where they can actually stand up, and they can basically fight, because a lot of them will be ex-prisoners who've been radicalized in prison. A lot of them will have fought in the various different jihads around the world. A lot of them will be plugged into those networks, and the community is a lot closer together as well. So you're not basically living with people who are out. I'm just trying to find out what's happened to Momus. I just hope he hasn't been been kidnapped by anyone. Let's just see what's happening with it. But yeah, so from that point of view, it's difficult to compare England with anywhere else. But I think what we can definitely say and what we can safely say is that we're in a situation where, hello, Momus, how are you, mate?
Yeah, something wrong with my internet.
Oh, right, okay, no problem.
It's kind of weird, like it's just gone off everything.
Oh dear.
I think just coming back. Like, just give me a second.
Okay, no problem. Just as soon as you come back in, I'll bring you back in. So we thought you'd been got to by the. We thought you'd been got to all that talk of civil war. We thought MI5 and maybe shut you down, mate.
I'm not sure. My bad.
Okay, all right. Try and dive back in when you can, mate. Okay. Here we go. And he's back.
Yeah.
We thought you'd been. We thought you'd been got it. No, what I was saying was, Momus, that basically the situation in England is very. This is. Hi, Claire. You're live in front of 305 people. Hello. Hello, Claire.
Or while you're talking, I can just continue then. Yeah, I can keep on going then. Yeah, I don't know what happened with my yeah, I thought as well my door got kicked in or gonna get kicked in. All of a sudden the whole internet went down. And it wasn't showing me that it went down, but who knows? Who knows? There might have been some interference going on.
There could be, because Claire said she keeps getting kicked out as well. So do you know what? I'll be honest with you. And this is the thing, we're talking about. These very serious issues, and there's groups that there's state not state. I mean, the British Army units like 77 Brigade, whose job is to mess about with stuff like this.
Yeah.
That is their job. Their job is to look at me and go, "Oh, he's a bit subversive." We'll just, even though we're saying actually the opposite of what they think we're saying, they're happy to. But
the whole point of discussions and conversations is to explore ideas, so that we don't so that we don't have to explore them in reality, right? So if I explore my thought proposal, right, and it gets nullified, then it doesn't come into reality. But to build on the point that you were saying as well, like the problem with the conflicts and stuff, in my personal opinion, I think so we need some sort of conflict, but I hope that it is not a violent conflict, right? But at the same time, I'm not gonna. I'm just to avoid that, just to avoid the possibility of that. I don't want to compromise on fundamentals which will secure the prosperity of this country in the future, right? So
I totally agree.
That is the main thing that comes up to: what are you willing to sacrifice, and what are you willing to compromise? Now, I don't like ideologically. I think so. We need to realign ourselves in this. Like, okay, there is no compromise with an ideology that has such pervasive things within it that leads its people to be so extreme. It's like 40,000 of the Muslims are on terrorist watch list. There's no 40,000 white British guys on the watch list, even though they keep on saying the far right. If the far right was like actual problem,
it's far worse.
Obviously, that's what they are telling us, right? It has to be far worse.
My friend that I was mentioning earlier, when I mentioned him to 40,000 on the terror watch list, he kind of just rolls his eyes, because his point is, when you look at these marches in London where people have been radicalized in real time, not just Muslims but white English people as well, dumb, knuckle dragging, brain dead white English people who are chanting from the river to the sea, and they don't even know which river and which sea, and they don't even know that they're not even aware that Jews have lived in Israel for at least 3,000 years, depending on which sort of interpretation of the Bible you take. That's historical. 3,000 years at least, probably 3,800 years, right? So they just, these people are ridiculously stupid. But the problem is, these are the cannon fodder. These are the useful idiots that are basically going to, step up to the mark and do as they're told.
We have them on both sides.
We do, but
have these people on both sides.
The problem is, I'll tell you what my problem is with having any sort of conflict now, and this is what I want to happen. And again, I think there will be violence, right? But it's basically, first of all, if there's going to be violence, you want to know you're on the winning side. In other words, you want your side to win, right?
Of
That's
course.
the first point, yeah.
Of course.
And the second point is, if you have violence, you want the state on your side. You don't want to be fighting against the state, because if you're fighting against the state, you're really you're in big trouble. Okay, and obviously none of us got any arms, so this is all hypothetical. We're just sort of jamming about about civil war. We're not going to do it. But the reality is, what needs to happen to get us to the position where we can actually achieve something is we need to get a very hardline government. I'm not saying right wing, but a very patriotic, very uncompromising, culturally Christian government who actually understands that, like you, I mean, and you get it, Momus, the two threats that face the United Kingdom are communism and Islamism. And Islamism is a euphemism for Islam. It's just what people use. It's what people use because they're scared to say Islam, right?
Yeah,
because
just like socialism is a euphemism for communism.
Exactly. They're all the same. They're all the same thing. So the communists. I'd add another one. The globalists. There, the communists, the globalists, and the Islamists. Are a massive problem. I mean, and people aren't aware. I mean, have you ever heard of the Islamic movement, Momus?
No.
Right. What the Islamic movement is like a synchronism of groups like Muslim Brotherhood, Jamaat-e-Islami,
that was bound to happen.
Deobandi, Salafi. So it's kind of like a very loose umbrella. It doesn't have a website. It doesn't have an address, but it's a movement. So it's bringing these streams together. So you bring the Salafi, the Maududi-inspired mosques.
Like Richard, like this is what people think always thought was the weakness of Islam, but this is actually the strength of Islam, that they don't have a centralized pope or power like that.
Absolutely.
Which means every single one of them is actually a sleeper agent in a way.
Yep.
That they can reawaken faith in them, and they can start, like, as long as they are all geared towards the main goal, which usually they are. They can spread chaos, and we have talked about this before. The basic definition of devil, of Satan, is someone who spreads chaos, right? Doesn't have a plan or anything like that, just chaos, and likes seeing people in misery, and likes basically seeing people fail, right? So that he is proven right against God, right? So basically is spreading chaos, and this is how Islam works as well. But it's like, so the idea of conflict as well is like, my understanding is that if we have a violent conflict, it won't happen all of a sudden in every place at the same time. It will happen at one time. If it's major enough, we can hope, and only hope, that it kicks the right people into action, which is the government, right? Not our political government, but basically not even our king. Even though I hope that he wakes up, right? That his actual Englishness comes out, like his actual British, like,
it won't.
Even if it doesn't, right? So we have the military. Will not go against his people in that way. Even police are becoming hesitant now, even though police are being used more and more. We see this now, that the police are becoming they're becoming uncomfortable. Not the chiefs, police chiefs and stuff, they're all fucking communist, but the actual people, right? They are becoming more and more uncomfortable doing this.
I get that. I mean, I think. I mean, there's a friend of mine. I'll not say his name. He's very, very old now, but he was a Sharia judge, right? And I'm not going to say where he came from, but he converted to Christianity and then devoted the rest of his life to warning people, because he was a Sharia judge. He knew Sharia law. He knew he knows the Quran like the back of his hand, like we know the Lord's Prayer. He knew the whole of the Quran and was able to. I'll give you an example. When the do you remember the British Army advert a few years ago where they had them getting round in defence and praying for while the Muslim guy prayed? Do you remember that? It was like a recruiting. The worst, the most ridiculous recruitment advert for the British Army I've ever seen in my life, right? And he showed me, and I've actually I did a video on this about 5 years ago. He showed me the verses from the Quran that related to that. That video wasn't just made up. There's actually verses in the Quran. I forget what they say and where they are, but you can find it on my channel. I'll put the video in the link below. But basically, what they were saying was, you defend me and I'll pray. And there's verses in the Quran that actually talk about that. Talk about non-Muslim warriors defending the Muslims while they pray. And that's what the whole advert was based on. And his premise was this, that basically the government has already surrendered to Islam. And I think it has.
I think as well.
I think it has. Has. If you look at what Tommy said in that video he did with Dan Wootton, the thing that stood out most out of that video is when he talked about meeting the Bishop of Pontefract, I think it was. And basically the bishop told him that MI5 and MI6 had told him that the future of the UK was Dear Bandy. That's what they. I mean, it's not like it's some little Sufi Barelvi, Ahmadiyya, huggy, warm version of Islam, which I don't really believe
Deobandi is even like not liked within the Islamic countries. So
Dear Bandy make up 42% of mosques in the UK.
Yeah.
Right. Salafi make up 9%. Maududi inspired maybe 2%. Extremist strains of Islam or extremist sects of Islam make up well over 50% of the Muslims or the Muslim mosques, the mosques in the UK. Right. Over 50% would be classed as extremist, conservative. Right. And that's what this guy said. And then you look at what Farage said when he was been interviewed by Winston Marshall. We can't win this. We can't win this. Well, sorry, no, we can win this, and we must win this. We have to win.
A very important point with that Farage thing as well. So we all know Farage doesn't have any original ideas of his own, right? So he always borrows these ideas. So if he's saying this, right? If he's saying this is not his idea. This is the idea of the other liberal elites that he's going on champagne parties with in the metropolis, right?
He's already part of the deep state. He's already part of the deep state.
So this is what they are. So we might even say, in like a little bit of in defense of Farage, right, that he might not be intentionally a containment agent, so to speak, but he might have been scared into being one, right? Like he might have been told, look, 30-40 years ago, because he has been in politics for 30 or so years, right? And this has started happening 30-40 years ago, that he had been told, like, okay, we have to do this. Is the plan. This is the plan of the king, or like the queen, or queen also, or somewhat agreed with this sort of plan. That so you gotta help us, right? So he could have been fooled into it, and he is not that smart anyway. So
I think you've been charitable to him.
Yeah, I am trying to be as charitable as possible.
No, don't
show a scenario.
Don't give don't give that dog of a man any quarter.
No, I don't want to. It's like
he's a quisling. I mean,
in the best case scenario is that. In the worst case scenario, like But so the problem then becomes, right, that all our elites have already decided that we're going to take a knee to Islam. This is why, like, all these messages that we have been getting. And I think so we have influenced, the British elites have actually influenced the Americans as well in this regard. And now Americans are sort of saying, okay, no, we don't want it. We didn't mind it when it was far away in Europe. But now it's coming on their own doors. Now people are creating mosques and cities in Texas, all Islamic cities and stuff. Now they're becoming like a problem for them. So then it happens like, so should we still try to find a non-violent solution? Or should we actually try to confront this with whatever means possible while we have the British native demographic still in our favor?
Yes, this is what I think, Momus. This would be my preferred option if we are going to get somewhere with this. 2029 is absolutely the last chance to do this democratically and peacefully. We need to have a party, and this is why I've joined Advance, and this is why I'm pushing Advance. And again, if there's any kippers, I think all the UKippers have probably stopped watching my channel, to be honest with you. But if there's any UKippers or Britain Firsters or SDPers or any of the Heritage Partiers, and you're going, oh well, Advance is no different.
I
Advance
think
is
so.
very
All members need to come together.
absolutely.
You know?
I mean, to me, Advance is sitting there kicking down the door of 30,000. You know, it's literally, you know, the energy, and not just because it's a new party. There's a real ideological push behind this, and dare I say it, a lot of it's actually based on the pledge, and the ideas in the pledge, which is great, obviously. So that's why I'm so bought into this. Now, the pledge is not connected with Advance in any way.
Ben
In
has
fact,
signed it before, though.
Ben
So,
signed it. That's the whole
yeah.
point. In fact, you know, we've made it very clear to any political party, and this includes Advance, even though I'm now a member of Advance, that if a party departs from what the pledge stands for, then we'll publicly make that known. So if Advance does do anything that is contrary to what's in the pledge, we'd have to let our members know. No, actually, we don't agree with Advance on this. Make your own minds up what you do. You know. So let's have a hypothetical, Momus, okay? So Advance win the next general election. Ben Habib becomes prime minister, and this is hypothetical because they haven't made policy on this yet, and I haven't been
They
involved in
haven't even
discussion.
registered as a party
They
yet.
haven't been registered as a party, so all of this is completely hypothetical and speculative. But I am very positive that in what is it, 4 years' time, we're going to have an amazing breakthrough. And so let's say Ben wins the election in 4 years' time, becomes prime minister. And I know a lot of people will be looking at me, that's not possible, Richard. Well, people would have said around the time of the last general election, there's no way that Reform would be the biggest party in the country knocking on the doors of Downing Street. And it is. And it's not because, you know, the snake oil salesman in chief is in charge of it. It's because there's such a hunger in the country for solutions. Over 52% of the British population believe Islam is incompatible with British values and with British civilization and British culture, right? So that's a massive majority that believe that, and obviously there'll be undecideds and so on and so forth. It's not a straight split because there's going to be people who don't even think about that. So Ben wins the next general election. Ben becomes prime minister, and he comes out with some very, very hardline policies. Nobody can really say anything because Ben's half Pakistani. He understands Islam, he understands Pakistani culture, and he knows that there's a real problem. And he starts deporting all the wrong ones: the grooming gangs, the criminals, the Islamists, all the illegals go. Even if they've got passports, those passports are investigated and they're pulled in because they came in the country illegally, and they're thrown out. That would be the dream ticket, right, on immigration, right? So people that have basically gamed the system go. People that are Islamists go. People that are in grooming gangs go. So you have a sort of mass deportation wave, the opposite of the Boris wave, basically. And when you do that, and then you start clamping down on Sharia courts, then you start banning halal slaughter, then you start making it socially unacceptable to go on. You know, free Palestine marches, not banning them, but make just the media. So all of the elite has to change, and once that happens, then there will be a massive violent kickback from the parasitical population that's causing the problem. They will start to kick back and they will start to fight back. When that happens, you're in control of the government, you're in control of the military, you're in control of the security services, you're in control of the police. You have to basically gut the Home Office, gut the chiefs of police, gut the judiciary, and basically get people that actually believe in Britain in those positions of power. So then you've actually got the full force of the state on your side. At the moment, if there was a conflict, it would lead at best to a lot of prison cells and graveyards getting filled, and the country just about scraping through and surviving, and Islam coming out of it stronger the other end because they'll be playing the victim for anybody that's been killed or injured, right? At the worst, the country completely balkanizes. The country becomes a failed state. The war goes on for years, and as Betts predicted, 20,000 people a year are getting killed up and down the country. And the other thing is, if there was an uncontrolled conflict where it was just done purely out of anger without any strategic goals, whoever has the best ideology, not the best ideology, the strongest ideology in terms of being able to galvanize people around them, and the most weapons and the most organization and the most community spirit basically wins or makes massive gains. So to go, from zero to a conflict, a sectarian conflict, which it would be, to go from zero to a sectarian conflict, and then you probably get racist nutcases on all sides try to make it a race-based conflict, would be a complete disaster and would just completely destroy the country. Whereas if you've got a government that you're in control of, and the parasitical population suddenly starts to kick back against something that's causing it problems, then the government cracks down, home guards are raised, the population, sensible people in the population, are armed and deployed to patrol certain areas, to protect areas, and you end up with something that's more akin to what you got in Israel than what you would have in Rwanda or any of these countries where, or even you think about what happened in Burma with the disturbances in Burma. We've seen them in Somalia and Kenya. We've seen them in Nigeria. If you're not prepared for that, and the government isn't prepared for that, you're going to take massive hits. And because our governments are so weak, if you've still got a weak government and there's a massive jihadist uprising or there's a massive sectarian conflict, you absolutely know what side the government's going to come down on and who they're going to support.
Okay,
so that's my premise.
Yeah.
Is we need to control the government, and then a conflict will happen because the parasitical population will come back against the patriotic government. And when I talk about parasites, I'm talking about the lefties as well. I'm talking about the communists. They'll be doing exactly the same thing.
The enemies within,
the enemies within, the communists and the Islamists.
So I will extend that a little bit up. You're not wrong, but in my opinion, it's not just the parliament that we need to control. It's the whole mechanism behind it, right? The establishment.
That goes without saying. Yeah, that goes without saying.
Even if we have a majority, whichever party comes in, right, advanced party or whatever, it combines with whatever happens and whatnot. So
you need a shadow home office. So you need shadow civil servants. You need shadow judiciary, shadow police commissioners. Everything has to go off. It's basically a counter-revolution.
Our country has not been run by politicians for a very, very long time. Exactly. So it's being run by activist judges, and it's being run by civil service, right? So we will still have that problem even if a party like Advanced Party come in majority, right? So this problem will still not get resolved properly till probably the second term of that party. It might actually come to that, right? But there are certain things that they might start doing. Now, I am more inclined to see what's happening with this Restore Britain. I actually really like I've joined them as member, and I like what they're doing, because I think so we need to bring a lot more people together who are even like who are not leaving their party still, like conservatives or SDP or whatever, like all these people under one umbrella, because I think so that's what we will need. But I'm yet to see about Advanced Party, right? I like Ben Habib a lot. I haven't joined any party, actually. I've left all the parties that I was part of, because I'm not wholly convinced that there's a political solution. 4 years is a long time till 2029. Till that time, they would have reinforced with illegal migrants so much that the problem would be even bigger. There will be a lot more socialist policies that are coming in right now. I've heard as well about the stamp duty. Now they are thinking about removing the stamp duty, but they're going to bring another separate national property tax on everyone who has a property worth £500,000 or more, right? This is a signal of making everyone who is able to do something about fixing the country leave this country, right? So in these 4 years, a lot can happen. So my proposal is this, like, okay, I would like there to be a political situation. At the moment, I can't see it. Maybe 6 months down the line, or maybe when advanced party actually
Yep.
registers as a party, then and people
Yep.
start coming maybe it will change, my idea will change in a year, right?
Yep.
But at this very moment, I can't see a political solution. I think so there is going to be conflict. A part of me thinks that maybe a level of conflict is actually necessary for a lot of people within to kick in, because there has been a lot of process within, as I've seen through my contacts and stuff, within civil services, within local government, within police, and all of these places. People who previously were labor or liberal democrats, they are voicing discontent, and they are for the policies even proposed by reform, or even proposed by advance or whatever. Like, they are going against the illegal migrants, even most liberal people, right? So
Yep.
it is kick-starting people a lot, so it needs a sort of more of that. But at the same, I would say, okay, maybe we have a chance in 2029. I
Well,
don't want to put all
my
my.
premise is
Hmm,
it's the last one. Just one on Sophie. Sophie, I take it that's Danny. Sophie, you shouldn't be blocked off this channel. So none of our guys would have blocked you. So I don't know what's happened there. It seems like something very strange is happening with this channel tonight in terms of people getting kicked off, because
hmm,
two of the mods got kicked off as well. So
no,
it's just weird what's going on. Sorry to cut across you there, Mo. I
yeah,
just wanted to jump in there.
no,
If anyone's
that's fine.
experiencing that, it's
Yeah.
probably the Gremlins at 77 Brigade, but
Yeah.
77 Brigade, that's what I've got to say to you. But
Yeah, so let me just
yeah,
finish that
sorry,
thread,
go on.
bro.
Yep, yep,
So I mean, I think so they I would like there to be a possibility in 2029, right? Myself, what I would say is, like, I don't want to put all the, and we shouldn't put all the eggs in one basket, that,
yep,
oh, we are going to win 2029, whatever. It might not happen. If the state is willing to put their communist hand so much on
yep,
us in 2029, they might put even more of a hand. And even if people vote for it, they might be dodgy elections, right? So a lot can happen, that they will still maintain power. But I would say is, like, we also, alongside it, each of us personally and collectively as well, we need to prepare for the worst case scenarios if the inevitable happens, either in between 2029 or right after 2029. Because don't forget, even in 2029, if you get the party that you want and they start doing the necessary, there will be huge,
I agree.
huge violent
I
conflicts
agree.
by the lefties, by the Islamists, by everyone, because they'll be kicking people out.
I
We're
agree.
seeing this in America, right? This is why there's so much civil unrest that went on all of America and stuff. When they started kicking out the drug cartels and stuff like that, people are doing violence against. It's going to happen over here as well, right? So we need to prepare for those things, in my opinion. I think so. Personally,
Yep,
everyone needs to prepare. This is what personally I am doing. This is why I have sort of like disengaged myself from a lot of all the political parties at the moment.
yep,
It's not like I'm not talking to them. I want to talk to them. I want to listen to them. I want to support the right parties, like Advance Party, like and movements like Restore Britain and stuff like that. But personally, I want to prepare for the best case and the worst case. Right? The best
yep,
case is like, oh, we get a government. Okay, so in this time, I need to get like a lot more experience in certain things. I need to, like, because I need to be more prepared. How can I help if my help is needed? If, like, in party people want my help,
yep,
policies against with Islam, how to tackle with that, this and that. So I'm consuming things right now to preparing myself mentally, intellectually, and also physically, and also trying to see how we can build physical strongholds, because I think so it might come to that as well. People need to start thinking about these things very seriously.
I
And
would
as
agree with all
well,
that.
I would say, like, any movement, including Tommy Robinson, Unite the Kingdom, Advance UK, Restore Britain, and stuff like that, I'm also at that point, which I think so we have talked about this before as well, that I want to support all of them.
Yep,
But I don't want to be a part of people unless they want me to be a part of them as well, and then they're serious about it, because this is something that people don't see actually. So it's good to talk about this in a brief way. People see, like, people say, okay, people like us, we are talking about it, okay, we, like this guy is saying as well, a woman, I don't know, that we need you in advanced UK and stuff. Like, yeah, it's good, like, to be considered for those, and work with them, but there has to be a concrete offer, and that your voice is actually listened to, and that you can make some changes, right? So
Yep.
people can come together. It's not like people don't want to come together, but people who are in position to bring people together, they need to create proper pathways for them, because we can't, I can't just, like, not work and stuff like that, and, like, depend on a YouTube or stuff, like,
No, none
that's
of us
not
can.
sort of my
None
thing
of us can.
anyways. Yeah.
None of us can. I think.
Yeah.
I think the reality is what I mean. We've got to be very careful what we say. I mean, obviously, when we're talking about preparing, we're not talking about doing anything illegal or breaking any laws.
No,
But
no,
I think
exercising is not illegal.
no, of course not.
Not yet.
No, I think hitting the punch bag is a good idea.
Yeah.
Lifting weights is a good idea.
Yeah.
Just getting yourself into a bit of
Yeah.
physical shape, so that you can, as much as possible, defend yourself if
And
you ever
knowing your
are
neighbors
attacked.
as well, like getting to
Yeah.
know your neighbors, creating a whatever WhatsApp group or whatever with your neighbors, and say, okay, if you're in trouble, if your kid is over there or
This
whatever,
this
text,
is
and we will
where
help each other out.
this is where Northern Ireland is streets ahead of the UK. I mean, it's not as in each other's houses as much as it used to be, back in the sort of 80s and the 90s, where everybody was really, really close. But I think there's still a real community, certainly in the town I live. I mean, we do those migrant demos every Friday. The numbers are going up all the time. There's a little community getting built there where we're sort of walking around the town as well, just to see if there's anything going on. So there's a lot of now. That's a very good point that Claire makes. I'm going to come back onto that in a minute. I think what we've got to realize is, and I'm not talking about us all living great pure lives, but I think we've got to realize that serious times need serious people, and we need to get serious about what's going on. And building an army, that's an interesting point. I mean, we can't build an army, obviously, because that would be illegal. But what you could do, you could set up little groups like we've done in our town, and it's nothing sinister about them, but it's just men mainly coming together to protest on one specific issue at the moment.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Build community groups, bring community strongholds. This is like your intellectual, your networking strongholds and stuff. And that is like, we are all like, army is made up of people.
Exactly.
They're not made of like just weapons sitting over there. Like, okay, in the world of AI, that might change. It might be just weapons fighting each other. But like right now is made up of people, right? So as long as we come together and we know what's happening with each other, help each other out wherever we see it. So if we see someone on the street, something's happening to them, everyone in the neighborhood knows, right? And we are active in helping each other out. That itself is an army, because that's a people being actively defending themselves, and like helping each other out. That's what we actually need to do.
And what they want to do, what the state want to do, when that happens, and I've seen this happen many times. When that happens, straight away the state tries to jump in, normally through policing structures, and get control of it. So if they see a group, there's one in Bournemouth at the minute. These guys are going around the patrolling Bournemouth. As far as I know, they're not really doing it with the police. They're doing it on their own. The police, the media, everyone's going after them. We had it in East Belfast with the lads in East Belfast. Maybe they were a little bit enthusiastic, but they were certainly not racist, and they weren't going out there with ill intent. They were going out there to protect their families and to protect their kids, right? And there's nothing wrong with doing that, and it's perfectly legal to do that. It's perfectly legal for me to get five guys and say, right, let's go for a walk around our estate, just see what's going on, just to see what's happening. If there's anything illegal, we'll phone the police. We're not going to get involved. We're not going to do anything. Unless someone's in danger, or it looks like something unpleasant's happening. So we can do this now. We can start building and it's resilience. It's community resilience. You do it at the family level first. So you basically make sure that your family's as resilient as you can possibly get it. Obviously, it's like that whole thing. You can pick your friends, but you can't pick your family. I think
we need to become active in that way anyways, like, and stopping these, like, because we've seen what happened with the Epping protests as well, right? And this is why like my message was out there, even like before, when Tommy Robinson was thinking of going to that protest. I put it out there, like, to him and like to Twitter as well. please don't go.
So did I.
Like,
Yep.
like they need they need to do this, right? It's important that they do this on their own,
Yep.
because there were families, there were women, there were mothers, and there were fathers. They needed to do this, right? And we've seen that they were so overwhelmed. And
Yep.
if you do these sort of protests led by people, not by a group of people that you can bus
Yep.
here or there, but people, local people, that
Yep.
means they're gonna come together more and more often. They are
Exactly.
more active now, they're more vigilant now. If they see any immigrant, any illegal immigrant around a playground or something, they are all going to react now, right?
Yep.
And if you do these 2 or 3 and 4 protests at the same time, the police are overwhelmed, they can't help
Yep.
this. Okay, so if they start cracking down on these people who are looking after their own, going around, you start enough, they do not have the resources to
Exactly.
actually stop it. So we can overwhelm them, and we are not doing it negatively.
No.
Is to
No.
protect the communities, and not being just violent or something, but for defense,
Exactly.
defending our own, defending the kids, and defending the women. So
This let me
we
come at,
have to.
let me come at some of the comments
Yeah.
here, Mo. Zelda, set up fitness groups, go kickboxing, etc. Absolutely agree
Mm,
with that. I mean, another thing. I mean, if you want to get some very basic sort of tactical skills, well, there's a couple of things you could join the TA, and it would be very basic with the TA. But as well as that, you could also do airsoft or paintballing, because what it gets you used to is actually moving in a sort of combat type situation. I have a friend
mm,
was advising the Ukrainian military and their special forces, and he was telling me that the kids that were surviving in the war, obviously not everyone survived because of artillery and drones, all sorts of stuff, but in one-on-one combat, the people that were getting the drop on people were people that had basically done paintball and
mm,
airsoft, which I thought was really
mm.
very, very interesting. So if you want to get yourself in that sort of frame of mind, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and always be vigilant. I mean,
Yeah.
living in Northern Ireland, coming to Northern Ireland as a young soldier, living in Northern Ireland for however many years during the Troubles, that was built in. For
Mm,
years, if I went into a restaurant, I would always sit looking facing the door. And I don't know what it was going to do, because if someone comes in with a gun, they're just going to shoot in the face instead of in the back, I suppose. But it was just, and even when you're driving up to a set of traffic lights, you wouldn't have the handbrake on, you'd have the foot on the
mm,
clutch, you'd be back from the traffic lights and back from the car in front of you, just so that you had a bit of maneuver room. That was just kind of drilled
yeah.
into people that had been in the military and the police and probably in the groups that were involved in the conflict as well. That was just drilled into
Mm.
everybody that lived here. And unfortunately, the English are going to have to wake up to
And I
this
think so. We need to be
and it's tactical awareness. That's what it
yeah,
is.
I
Tactical
think so. We
awareness.
need to be a bit sensible as well. And I think so. My main message for people to wake up and patrol and stuff is
Yeah,
mainly for men, right? Because men need to start being men,
I
and
agree.
start protecting your women and children. Like, 'cause this is like getting too much now. But also, I think so. This is also a message to women as well, to be a bit sensible, right? We know there's issues right now. So if you're going out for drinks or whatever stuff like that, and you staying, like, okay, we would prefer there to be safety and stuff, right? Because I've seen that. I go to Poland a lot because my wife is Polish, right? And
Yeah,
it's safe over there for women to go out at night and stuff. But we don't have that situation over here.
no,
So have some fucking sense right
yeah,
now. Don't do that on your own, because bad things might happen to you. Have some men in your community or in your family or whatever, to come pick you up or stuff when it happens. Go out in groups when you go out as well. Make sure that nobody's drugging your drinks or whatever. Don't take Uber or whatever. Depend on your family and stuff. And don't stretch the limitations as well of your family that much. You're not going to die if you don't, like, go out every single weekend, right? So
yeah,
this kind of sensibilities as well, that we need to think like this. We have to adapt to our time. There's things that we wish that we could do still, that it would still be safe. I wish that the kids could, like, play in the playground or wherever, or go hiking or whatever on their own without supervision or something. It would be safe for them as it used to be in the old times. But
yeah,
it's not that, right? So we need to adapt to the situation, not let us be afraid and be coward and be overly paranoid. but actually have some sensibility around you. Like when you're going for a walk or something, it's time not to stop wearing headphones. You actually need to be aware now in these times. Like you need to stop wearing you need
Well,
to stop going to dark alleys at night as well. You need to stop, like the women like really need to clue on, like right now their kids, like if your children are 13, 14, if your daughters are 13, 14, 15, be careful what they're consuming online,
yeah,
where they're going, who their friends are, where they're hanging out, why they're hanging out, like late and stuff. Like you have to do this.
yeah,
We are
totally.
in those troubling times right now.
Yeah, well, do you know what? I mean, I was, obviously everyone in this chat that lives in Bangor will know what happened last Thursday in our town. There was a guy been prowling around estates. His name was Suleimani Delalio, and it turns out that's a Fulani name. And if you know what the Fulani are a tribe from West Africa that have spent the last 30 years running through places like northern Nigeria, parts of not Sierra Leone, so, some of those mid-band countries in West Africa, and
Proper
slaughtering.
purebred British, then, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what the Falanis are. They've been running around there slaughtering Christians for the past 30 years in West Africa, and they're also called the Fuller. Now, here's the thing: last Thursday, the armed police, a SWAT team, arrested a guy with what they believed was a sword. People are now saying that the press said it was a stick, but I just find that very hard to believe. This guy had been running around Bangor since Monday, threatening children with knives, right? Sleeping rough, and apparently coming from Great Britain, sleeping rough, and just to me that was a Southport just waiting to happen. I'm amazed we did, and I'm so thankful that those police took him down and basically didn't kill him. They arrested him, and he's now remanded. But that's what we're up against. That's the margin. If that had been a Southport in Bangor, Northern Ireland would be on fire now.
Yeah.
Tell you that here and now. Northern Ireland, because Northern Ireland's different. Because in Northern Ireland they will go back. If there's a community like what happened in Ballymena, if there are people that are taking liberties and start attacking our kids in Northern Ireland, the men will stand up. And if they have to go to prison, they go to prison. They don't care. Now that's what
I think so. This is what happened. This attitude change has to happen in England as well, because
But that's the point I'm making. You see, that's the difference between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK. And I'm a proud Englishman, but my goodness, 29. Was it 29? Was it 21? Ariana Grande, I think it was 21, wasn't it? 21 men, women, and children, mainly women and children, mainly girls, were blown to bits by an Islamic suicide bomber. And we went, don't look back in anger. Let's get bumblebee tattoos and make heart shapes. No, that's not happening again.
Yeah.
Next time that sort of outrage happens, there's got to be a very, very robust response to that.
Well,
there will be people on the streets.
There will be
people on the
This is what I'm
streets
saying,
for a long, long time. And I'm not saying be violent. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying be violent. But what I'm saying is people need to stand up if that happens, because we cannot allow that to happen. We can't allow people to kill our children again and just go, oh, that's all right. It's nothing to do with Islam. No, it's everything to do with Islam. Because when they're quoting the Quran and when they're quoting the Hadith and when they're saying, well, we read an Al-Qaeda, this guy that did Southport, he read an Al-Qaeda manual before he did it, but it's nothing to do with Islam.
Yeah, but you know what? Like,
we can't find a motive.
I don't even give a fuck whether it's to do with Islam or not. It's to do with all of these people who are here who hate Britain, right?
Yeah.
So it is to do with Islam. We know it's to do with Islam. It's written, like, it's the Quran is the manual, and the Hadith. Muhammad did these things, right? So we know it's in Islam. But I actually don't even care about that anymore, right? It's like, no, you're here illegally, out. I don't care what is the color of your skin. You're out, right? You hate Britain, you're out. You preaching hate in this country, out, right? All of these people, like even like whatever the color of their skin is, right? If they're not native from here and they're hating, they're preaching hate, and they're like trying to subvert the nation,
Yeah.
mark them as traitor, whatever, like kick them out,
Yeah.
like we need to, it needs to happen,
Yeah.
but it's gonna take some time, but
Yeah.
we
No,
need to
I mean
stop
that's.
we need to stop
I think
excusing their community.
next time there's a terrorist attack, the people take to the streets and
Yeah,
they demand that all the extremists are put in prison on remand straight away. Forty
yeah,
thousand of them. Find if you can't find prison spaces, build them. Put them on
yeah,
an island. Do what you want. Anyone that's here illegally, get rid of them. Kick them out of the country. That's
yeah,
it. We
yeah.
can't have this. We
Yeah,
cannot
and
have.
we need to, people need to be active right now. We need
Yeah.
to stop this importation of Gazans that is going to
Yes,
happen, right?
I
We
agree.
need to stop this. They are going to come into France, and straight away from France they're going to
Yeah.
come over here. These are going to be the direct soldiers, right?
Yeah.
Because people need to understand one main thing that I was talking about before, I think so, I don't know when I was talking about this, but people need to understand this, right? These illegal immigrants that are coming in, right? These are not Islamic scholars. These are not Islamic leaders or anything. They are not the leaders. These are the foot soldiers, right?
Yeah.
The Islamic leaders are already here, right? Most of them are British born.
Yeah.
So when we talk about illegal immigrants, it's not enough to talk about illegal immigrants. We have to go beyond. So
Yeah.
when something like this happens and people start saying, "Oh, it's not Islam, we should not look back in anger or whatever," no, no, no. You are trying to protect the legal migrants over here, the
Exactly.
legal Muslim migrants, or the third and fourth generation who you call British Muslims. There's no
Yeah.
this word is a misnomer. You cannot be British and you cannot be Muslim. These should not be linked together, right?
Yeah.
But this is what they're trying to stop, and this is what we need to sort of start thinking about this. Like, we need to stop accepting Islam as a valid religion and
Well,
stop respecting people who follow it. I'm not, I just cannot respect those people at all now.
I
It's
think
enough.
if there's another Islamist terrorist attack, right? If there's another Islamist terrorist attack,
Hmm,
I think there will be a massive response
hmm,
in the UK. I think there'll be a massive response, and it has to be a massive response, because if there's not a massive response, basically what's going to happen is they're just going to go, oh well, we'll not clamp down on the problem. We'll just clamp down on a few people that go out and protest. But there needs to be a massive response that doesn't stop until the government do something. So I think
hmm.
that's what you're getting back to restore. I want to go back to restore very quickly,
Yeah.
Momus. I think the penny just dropped when you were talking about that, because I think what Restore are doing, they're working on a lot of deep policy stuff. They're working.
Hmm,
They could be the shadow civil service, the shadow judiciary, the shadow, um, you know, all those government agencies. They could fill that. If let's say Advance did win the next general election, Restore could do all that stuff, do all the mechanics of government, and let Advance get on with the electioneering. And that's maybe what they're going to do. I mean, I think that would be a really good
whatever
way of doing it.
whatever it might be, I think so people will need to come together, but we also have to be mindful, right? Because they it's not like 50, 100, 300, 600, or
Yeah,
1,000 people that are employed within the civil service, local governments, police, fire brigades, all the public institutions. We have like this is the highest employer. Government is the highest employer in UK, right?
yeah,
These are millions of people now, right? So and we might say, okay, we need to cut down or stuff like that, but even when we cut down even 50% of them, they are still in their thousands, right?
yeah,
They cannot be replaced by Restore Britain, they cannot be replaced by Advanced UK.
yeah,
So what needs to be replaced is like taking away the government powers from them, policy
yeah,
making powers from them, taking away, like repealing all the acts that were before that gives them the powers
yeah,
over an elected official. Also take away the power that protects the civil servants from being fired or
yeah,
fired from by the elected official. There's a lot of laws like that that needs to be repealed, and then there needs to be, other policies that needs to be brought up, which sort of make sure that people are put in place on merit. So DEI things and stuff like that needs to be taken away. So we cannot change everyone, but we need to change most of
I
their
mean, there
most
was
of their
somebody,
heads.
there was a comment in the in the chat at the very beginning, and he said 25. Something about 25% of Israel, of the people in Israel, are calling for Netanyahu to end the war in Gaza, and equating that with the march. I want to make 2 points on that. First of all, Israel is a democracy, and people can protest if they want to protest. But
Yeah, it's up to them.
25% of people protesting on the streets of Israel is not a
Yeah.
majority. It's 25% of people. Will policy change? There's probably going to be a ceasefire soon anyway, which I think would be a mistake. I think they need to completely destroy Hamas. I think they need to get the last. They need to drag the last Hamas operative out of a drainage ditch.
I kind of agree with them occupying the territory as well, to be honest.
No, they need to completely take over the Gaza Strip and deport everybody from Gaza to a third country. In my opinion, rebuild it. That's my opinion, but again, that's what this is about.
It's kind of irrelevant. Like I don't care as well. They have a country, they have a democracy. They will decide what they want to do. And I just don't want to support the Islamist.
We have, exactly. We have no say in it whatsoever. But again, if they're dealing with Islamists and showing how they can deal with Islamists, but again, I think the thing is too, Mo, about Israel. When you look at what happened on October the 7th, 2023, that was what they managed to do against one of the most professional and intelligence-led militaries on the planet. What Hamas did, if they could do that there, what could they do what could Islamists do in the UK? And that's what we've got to be prepared for. And
don't forget, Richard, like all of their people are like they have military training. Every single civilian has military training, right? So they're actually, all the civilians are soldiers. Now a lot of the problems that they're having with unprofessionalism, some conducts, and some which are somewhat unprofessional, or that they lack the security at that time, it is due to the fact that most of them are civilians. So they will have that unprofessional sort of bit or lapse in judgment and stuff like that, right? But we as a society have given all that responsibility away to the army, the military, which is like what, 70,000 or so at most, in all its personnel, not all of them fighting as well, most of them admin or here or there, right? So we don't have the numbers, right? And our response would not be the same as well. So there are a lot of things this is why we need to not like essentially prepare for war or whatever, but we need to be in the state of readiness.
Well,
I mean, whatever comes may.
I think we should prepare for war. I think we should. I think there should be a second amendment in the UK. I think we should have a right to bear arms. I think it should be controlled. But I mean, you can get weapons in the UK, but you've got to jump through all sorts of hoops, and it's very arbitrary whether they give you them or take them off you. They can do that very, very easily. I mean, I'm a weapons instructor. I mean, I a small arms instructor from back in whenever it was, 91, 92. But you need to practice all the time. So I wouldn't feel confident. I would have to train myself. In fact, I might actually join a gun club, because I think we should have those skills, because
it's basic human skills of we used to practice with arrows and stuff like that. It wasn't just to do war. It's a survival skill to be able to defend yourself. Defending yourself is a survival skill. I think so people need to be a bit mindful of that now.
No, I think so, and I think so, and again, it's like I say, I mean, I've done that. That's what I did. I was a weapons instructor, so I know weapons, but at the same time, I also know how dangerous they are if they're handled badly. And I don't like being around people that aren't handling weapons safely. So I think, but all of these things, we're all so busy and we've got so much going on. But I think we've got to really, we've got to, Richard, dude, we're going to get lifted for trying to buy a water pistol. Do you know what the frightening thing is? That is so true. And you can imagine what the police will do when they have a look at my firearms. My application for a firearms license, that's going to go down like a fart in a spacesuit, isn't it?
Now I have to go, but I just want to say as well, like before I go on that, preparing yourself and stuff like that as well, I think so it's very important to understand that when I'm saying people to prepare themselves, it's not just them personally, and not do that from that perspective. Because what people might have that in the mind, or prepare myself, that means I'm gonna stock up. If I have the money, I'm gonna like get shitloads of things and put, and or like how it happened in COVID, like all the toilet papers are gone because one dickhead has got the idea, and they prepare in a way of thinking about your wider
Yeah,
community, of making sure that things are going to be available, that
yeah,
there's security of stuff, and that you are going to help your neighbors and not going to be a dickhead, right?
yeah,
So you have to prepare from that perspective, you know and
yeah,
like it is very important, because if you don't prepare like that, if you're going to prepare like an individual and only going to look after your individual self,
yeah.
then we're lost. And
I
this is the
agree.
problem that has been in this country.
I
We
agree.
have to prepare
And
as a
listen,
community.
you can guarantee the parasitic demographics will be organizing as a community. They'll not be
Yeah, yeah.
organizing. They'll not be organizing as individuals. They'll be saying, right, brother, you come here, you do this,
Hmm.
you do that. They're probably already doing it,
Hmm.
And so I think we do need to get serious about this. You've got to do it in a way that you're not obviously starting up something that's criminal. You're not breaking any laws. Obviously, you've got
Hmm.
to be very, very aware that everything you've got to do is legitimate. But I mean, the question was how to stop the UK slipping into conflict. I think the answer to that is we're not going to. We can't. I think the answer to that is it's not possible to stop the UK slipping
Well,
into
I
conflict.
proposed at the
It's
start,
just
anyways. Like, if it
it's just what
involves
sort of conflict it's
compromising,
going to be.
I mean, that's the thing. If it involves compromising on Islam and communism, then I'm not interested
No, no, no.
in stopping any
Well,
conflict.
this is. I mean, and my premise is we get power through advance. We must get power. We must win the election. I mean, it's not. Losing is not an option. We've got to win the next general election with advance, and then the fighting starts in terms of, I don't mean physical fighting, but in terms of reforming the whole of the civil service, the judiciary, deporting people, etc., etc., etc. Momus, thanks so much for joining us tonight.
No, thank you
Everybody
for
that
having me.
watched, and loads of people took part, and thanks for all the comments. Some really great comments in there tonight. Very different as well. Very different stream tonight because a lot of the time we're sort of saying, well, how can we de-escalate everything? And I still believe we are looking to de-escalate everything, but we know that
Yeah,
I think it is impossible to see the United Kingdom not in a conflict situation in the next 10 years. I think it's just
yeah,
impossible to see
yeah.
any peaceful way out of it.
I
And
don't want to be an alarmist as well. Like people, it's like I'm not naturally an alarmist. I don't want to put people on the edge, because there's a lot of people who would have so much stress and anxiety and stuff. There's a lot of I'm pretty sure there's a lot of single moms out there. Okay, yeah, that has been the failing of the society that has created single mom, but we have the situation that we have right now. This
yeah,
is why I keep on saying to people, you have to sort of prepare as in your neighborhoods and stuff, because look out for those people. We are in a situation that we are in. We have to do what we have, but we have to do the best that we can to make
yeah,
sure that we protect each other and not leave each other out, right? Whatever come may, hopefully it doesn't happen. Hope upon hope, maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe we do get an election, and maybe we do have, even if we have violence, we have a government that can control that violence through state means, right? So hopefully that can happen, right? But we have to hope for the best, but we have to also prepare for the worst.
that's absolutely right. We've got we've got to be prepared for the the thing that we don't want to happen. So we've got to factor that in. And look, I mean, we've just got to really be very, very serious. And that's, I think I said at the beginning, we serious times demand serious men. We need serious people who are going to stand up and say, well, look, we're gonna do whatever we need to do to save our country.
Hmm.
And that is not inciting anything. That's not being,
No.
it's just been realistic and saying, we're in a big mess. And okay,
Yeah.
that hotel's closed down today. Okay, great. Where do they go?
Yeah.
Where do they
It's
go?
not about closing the hotels down. We need
Yeah,
them gone. Yeah.
it's exactly. It's not about
Yeah.
closing the hotels down. It's closing the routes and getting them out. That's what
Yeah.
it's all about. Momus, thanks, mate. Bless you. Everybody, thanks for commenting. Thanks for being in the thing. We'll do something else during the week. I'm loving these live streams at the minute. Everyone's really, it's really going well. So let's keep doing them. And again, share the channel, everybody. Share Counter Media. I want everyone on Counter Media if possible, because again, we need to do this in a way that's actually going to be it's going to be viable to do it a bit more, because obviously the more the channel grows, the more we can do. Okay, guys, see you all soon. Thanks very much.
Yeah.
See you now.
Bye.